Hi, this is Kevin.
And this is Zack.
And we're from Ride with GPS.
And you're listening to the Group Ride Podcast.
Welcome to episode 18 of the Group Ride Podcast. This is a podcast for cycling in the Pacific Northwest and beyond. I'm your host, Wes Salmon, and today on the show, we set a route for the Ride with GPS headquarters in Portland, Oregon. After that, I head back to Seattle, where we meet up with the organizers of the Cystic Fibrosis Ride for Life at the Roanoke on Mercer Island. And then I announce the final winner of our iBike P&W giveaway, who will claim the last pair of tickets to the Gigantic Bicycle Festival in Snoqualmie, Washington later this year. Clip in, riders, the Group Ride Podcast is rolling out. There are only a few more weeks until I tally the rewards for the July members of the Group Ride Club. What is the Group Ride Club, you ask? Well, it's the only way to get Group Ride Podcast gear and swag. What type of gear and swag, you ask? We're talking stickers, t-shirts, coffee mugs, and a little bit more. Sounds pretty good, right? I thought so too. So head over to thegroupride.com/club to get yourself signed up. With every new member, we get closer to unlocking some sweet club members-only rewards. At 50 members, I'll be making a custom Group Ride Podcast jersey available. At 100 members, I'll host a live version of the podcast somewhere in the greater Seattle area where club members get VIP access and can even be on the show. And at 250 members, we'll go all out and host a members-only group ride somewhere in Western Washington. You can join the Group Ride Club for as little as $1. Head over to thegroupride.com/club for all the details. A few weeks ago, my wife and I took a road trip down to Portland, Oregon to catch up with a few Pacific Northwest cycling companies, one of which were the folks behind the wildly popular cycle route system, Ride with GPS. We met up with Kevin and Zack at the Ride with GPS headquarters in downtown Portland to get some history on how the service came to be and where it's going. The Ride with GPS offices are in a beautiful renovated building with immensely high ceilings and what had to be century-old brick walls. As a result, we managed to find one of the biggest rooms to record in, and that came with a bit of an echo. Picture this next interview as us sitting in the middle of the Grand Canyon, recording a podcast after a wicked descent down one of the many paths to the bottom. So I am here in downtown Portland, talking with Zack and Kevin from Ride with GPS. First, thanks for being on the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about yourselves in regards to your cycling. What is your history in cycling? How did you get started in cycling, and what do you love to do on a bike?
I was never a big cyclist, I guess you could say, until I started commuting for a job in Portland. And I started commuting more and more. And then I got a bike where I could take recreational road rides. And then I got a bike where I could start doing gravel rides. And from then on, I pretty much, if I have free time, I try to look for gravel roads and low traffic.
Gravel's good stuff.
Yeah.
We're big into gravel up in Seattle as well. What about you, Zack?
I never rode bicycles after I turned 16 and got a driver's license. So there was a long hiatus between then and college. And then I had a boss when I was doing programming work at the university, and he ran a cycling team and convinced me to get on a bike. And the first ride I went on, I was behind him going down one of the big hills in Eugene and witnessed him run into a deer.
Oh, wow.
Which was an impactful event for me to see. Anyway, so I fell in love with cycling because I thought, man, this is really exciting. And from then, I kind of went through the full gamut. I tried to do a hill climb race, and I did a bunch of road riding and decided I really didn't want to race. And then I did some gravel riding, and then I eventually got a mountain bike. And now I just try and do any sort of cool riding in a new place that isn't just the same old thing, whether it's on-road or off-road or some of the gravel or more adventure riding. I just love the adventurous nature of it, and kind of traveling through nature at 15 miles an hour. It's wonderful.
So you guys are covering out the entire gamut of all the different disciplines of riding and getting out and getting dirty, getting some gravel roads, finding some new places to explore. I'm in the same boat. That's where I'm at with my cycling. What was the catalyst for starting up Ride with GPS? What was that moment where you guys realized and say, hey, we could put something together that could be really cool?
Well, when I was a sophomore in college doing down at the University of Oregon, pursuing a computer science degree, we had a class where it was like, okay, you're going to work on the same project for the whole class, for the whole term. And I'd been doing contract web development work since early high school, and so I already had done a bunch of stuff and had a lot of ideas. And so I was riding motorcycles a lot at the time, and I thought, man, wouldn't it be cool to, make a site where you could plot out a motorcycle ride, or maybe even record one, because I just found out about Garmin GPS units from my boss who rode bicycles, but I wasn't there yet. And so put together this initial prototype, actually started it 24 hours before the term was over, to be perfectly honest. But it worked. It was good. And then ended up, the guy that I ride motorcycles with, Colin, who's now my partner, I approached him shortly after that class. This was back in 2006. I was like, hey, you want to keep working on this thing with me? And so I would just come up to Corvallis, because he was at OSU, and we would work on it all weekend, and it just kind of proceeded from there and grew organically.
And how long has it been going so far since you guys went official?
Since 2006. So since then, there was really no real stop.
So you guys have been in the game a long time.
Yeah, about, I guess, roughly 10, 11 years.
So from the point that the idea was a concept and back of napkin sketches and whatnot, to the point to where you pretty much realized that this could be a full-time job for at least one person, how long did that take?
We didn't incorporate as a business until 2009. And prior to that, we mostly thought of it as a promising hobby.
Yeah, much like podcasting.
Exactly.
So during that time, you guys have been around for over a decade now. You've seen a lot of changes and a lot of rapid advancements in GPS support for bikes and GPS units getting smaller, more affordable, more capable. What has been the most impactful change in the industry where you guys realize that building Ride with GPS is going to benefit greatly from this change in the industry, or this shift in how people think about mapping and recording their rides?
I suppose I'd have to say smartphones, the ease of access to them, it's less of a financial burden than going out and spending the additional money on an expensive GPS unit. People are familiar with their smartphones, so it's, you just have this thing that does a lot of things, and I don't have to have this other thing that's very different from this thing that I'm used to. And as technology advances, the capabilities of smartphones get better. The battery life of smartphones has drastically increased. And so that's fit really well into our vision of our mobile app and what we're doing.
And now with all the advances in sensors that are now connecting to smartphones, either natively through ANT if you have a Samsung phone, or all the Bluetooth LE stuff that exists today, it's just going to get better and better for a lot of users who don't want to necessarily buy a $1,000 phone just for the sake of having a really awesome GPS. Like the cheapest phones these days have pretty good GPS systems in them.
Yeah, that's our view on it as well. And if people don't have a really specific reason to get a Garmin unit, we always push them to just use their phone and try it out, And I understand a lot of people don't want to stick their phone on their bars, or a lot of people want something that is separate. So if they run out of battery, they can still make a phone call, or there's weather concerns. There's a lot of legitimate reasons to have a traditional cycling GPS unit. But what we like about the phone is we have the ability to control the whole experience. And so, we've used Garmin GPS units since we started, and just know the ins and outs of them, and have basically acted as unofficial Garmin support, and have heard every possible thing that people are getting confused by on these devices. And we built the navigation in our mobile app totally on the basis of that understanding. So the idea that, I'm navigating a loop, and my Garmin unit congratulates me and tells me I'm done with my ride, and ends the navigation immediately when I leave my door. And so initially we were like, hey, this isn't car navigation. Your goal is not the shortest path to the end. Your goal is to follow the line you drew. And so if you drew 2 laps around, some hill climb, then let's make you do 2 laps. And so that is one example of a lot of things we've built into the app that we wouldn't be able to do or control that experience on a traditional GPS unit.
And I've been using your app a lot more now that I've gotten an iPhone 7, because it's waterproof and it's weatherproof, and I don't have to put a really big bulky case on it. I picked up one of the quad locks, and I actually have it on my stem, and it's really great. It's not quite aero, so I'm sure I'm losing like 25 watts from that, but I won't worry about that too much. But it's much better than, I have a Garmin 520 as well, and I can put routes on there and it's color and everything, and it can tell me where to turn. But like you said, if I cross over my own route or if I do an out and back, doesn't really work all that well, and it's frustrating. So the idea of having a nice big screen there, I can use the audio cues that may be piped into my Bluetooth headset that I might be wearing, only one ear, because that's the safest way to do it. That's all a lot better than a Garmin that isn't going to give me a small screen, going to have some weird, issues with overlapping or out and back routes. So I definitely think the idea of a weatherproof phone is going to help you guys as well. Speaking of apps, there are a number of other competitors in your space that are really ramping up their routing systems like Strava and Map My Ride and a few others. How do you guys see this landscape evolving for you guys? Is it a rising tides raises all ship type situation, or are there areas where you guys are looking to innovate to kind of outmaneuver the competition that's coming into the routing systems?
I look at it two ways, I guess. First is none of us are really worried about our position in the marketplace for the prosumer end of route planning, if you'll allow me to use that term. But somebody who's doing route planning for an event or for a route that they're going to present to a group of people, like a club or a tour operator, those folks, by and large, do use us already. They're happy with us. We have direct lines of communication with them. We have, half of our company is a really knowledgeable and expert support team, specifically because we've built a business around dealing with these people who serve cyclists, and we can sort of be their technology backbone. So I would consider that sort of almost like a B2B kind of relationship. But on the consumer side, where I see it going, and what we need to do a better job of, is identifying cases where we don't just want to drop you into the Photoshop of route planning. You don't need to do points of interest and do a custom cue sheet and have all these ability to like cut the route up into various pieces. What you really want is to see, hey, here's a really fantastic route. What does it take to make it start and end from my house, and maybe cut out that big hill I don't want to do? And so I don't honestly see anyone else sort of venturing into that territory yet. But that's where our head's at in terms of the next phase of where we're going with our route planner and our route planning capabilities, is splitting off and doing even a better job of serving that pro customer, and then also building these specialized tool sets to make it really, really easy to do common things a normal consumer wants to do.
And you touched on it a little bit. You guys have a number of features that have rolled out recently around like groups and ambassadors and ride reports or whatever. There are a number of things in your backlog, I would imagine, that you're also working on. So are there specific things that you guys are working on either currently where you're revising them to make them even better, or things that you're going to roll out soon that you're super excited about?
We're currently working on some better tools for tourism departments. And tourism departments and, municipalities, DMOs, direct marketing organizations. We've long worked with various organizations around the country and around the world. And we are now in the position to start fine-tuning those products more and introduce new products. We have a fantastic relationship with Travel Oregon, who's our state's tourism department. And through this great relationship, we've gained vast knowledge about kind of what these types of organizations are looking for. Travel Oregon stayed well ahead of the game anywhere. I mean, they just do it so well. And people look to them as kind of this beacon of what to strive for. And so we've been in a great position to take a bunch of that knowledge and now start applying it and provide a lot more content-rich tools for everyone else to be using.
As you are building up the app, I'm sure you guys, as most software companies do, will try a bunch of different things to try to figure out what's going to work for your customers, because you don't necessarily always have great insights to what they want, and sometimes they don't know what they want. Is there one thing that you guys did or you tried that you didn't expect to work that really worked well, or worked in a way that you didn't expect?
Probably the club account that we developed now 2 years ago. We'd long been the preferred choice of software for cycling clubs around the world, but we didn't have specific tools for them. So we finally spent a bunch of time and built a bunch of tools to help, an organization manage their content for a large mass of people. And after that got up and running with clubs, we started to get a bunch of tour operators signing up for the same account, which I hadn't thought about. I was like, oh, we got to do this thing and call it clubs and help clubs. And just with like a few slight tweaks, the program made a lot of sense for tour operators who hadn't really had any software solutions for them. And once that started going, it's now almost a 50-50 split of people using this club, quote unquote, club account that are clubs and tour operators. And then after that, event organizers started using it in kind of a similar capacity as tour operators were using it. So, we knew that the club account was going to be something good, but had no idea that it would snowball into this thing that a lot of different organizations could use.
And one thing I think that from a big picture standpoint that we've learned from it and that we're really excited about is it did start out as being, here's an account for bike clubs. What do they need? I guess we can give all their club members navigation in our app and maybe give them a route library with multiple admins. And that was sort of the basic thought. And then as these other organizations started using it, we also have what we call the ambassador program, which is where somebody who's like a local expert, maybe they run a bike shop or have something that they want to promote, can put their brand alongside their routes that they put together, and they have special tools to make the routes look really good, and we promote them on their behalf. And so after we saw this club account succeeding and turning into more of this organization account, we realized that, whoa, we kind of did the same thing in parallel for what we're calling ambassadors. And now we're at the point where as a company, structurally in the company and on our roadmap, we're totally splitting into two things of serving organizations, being sort of the technology backbone of the cycling service industry is a big goal of ours now. We go to the National Bicycle Tourism Conference every year. We put on 2 classes last year, and that's going to be a huge part of our company. And that's also replaced any idea that we're going to use any sort of traditional marketing tactics. So this now is channel marketing for us. So we give these guys a good deal, they still pay us, but we understand that part of the account price and the support that we provide is subsidized by the fact that I hate to say it, but it's win-win in the sense that they're exposing their riders and training their riders on how to use the consumer end of our software. And hey, if you really liked going on that tour and using our nav, maybe when you get home, you'll pay us for a personal account. So we didn't expect it to work out that well, but it's really working out fantastically. And we get to, serve 2 groups of people we love serving, and it's bikes the whole way from top to bottom.
And you get to cut your marketing budget.
Exactly.
Well, and as someone that kind of
no more Google ads.
Right. As somebody who kind of oversees that area and our support department, it's really something that's, kind of been developed by all of them. We don't run a tour operator company. I'm not doing a tourism for some state or for some community. So I don't really know what, I didn't know what we were supposed to be doing, but, our ethos is to personally work with everybody that we can. And through that, hundreds of organizations all over the world have shared their feedback, and we've worked with them to continually fine tune this program.
Very cool. So back to the first question, what we started with around your riding. Tell me a little bit about your best day on the bike. And I'll start with Kevin.
It's a trap.
And I'll point out while you're thinking that you're wearing a cast right now.
I am wearing a cast.
So I'm going to assume your worst day on the bike was recently.
That's probably true.
Okay. All right. We don't have to get into that because it's probably traumatic for you.
I've had a lot of good days minus one on the bike.
Just one. Yeah.
I don't know. I can't pinpoint one. Am I allowed to say that I thought about this question prior because you've asked it prior?
You're allowed to say that you studied for the exam.
I did study for the exam.
And you still don't have a question for the professor.
I'm going to fail the extra credit here. I've had a lot. I had the pleasure of going on a Cycle Oregon ride, the one that was in Hell's Canyon a couple years ago, which was fantastic. I have had the privilege of bringing my bike on family vacations with my wife. I enjoy Sun Valley, Idaho is a place that we really like to go to. And I have 2 of the best gravel rides I've ever done out there were outside of Sun Valley, the Harriman Trail. And Rebecca Rush runs an event out there called Rebecca's Private Idaho. And that there's like 2 gravel roads that go out of the town, and those are kind of the ones. And I was able to kind of do that at an off time where there wasn't a lot of people out there. Yeah. And it was just very, the feeling of being somewhere I've never been before and no one was around me and it was just me and the bike. It was awesome.
That sounds like really a great day on the bike.
It's a fantastic day.
What about you, Zack?
I've thought about this a little bit too, and gone back and forth. And
did you guys share notes?
Well, we've gone on a surprising number of memorable rides together. But no, I split my rides into 2 categories. And initially, I was like, man, I really like a lot of rides where I encountered some kind of hardship, and whether that's because it's this, you strive through it or you have a good story to tell or whatever, but that I threw that concept away because everyone has that. And really my best day on the bike was last year when I think there were 8 of us at the time with the company. There's 13 of us now. And one of the first tour operators that we ever worked with, Phil from Trio Ranch Bike Tours. And so he runs a bird hunting lodge and has for many, many, many years. And because of somebody that we know, one of his really good friends for decades.
Dan Morgan. Shout out to Dan.
Hey, he might be listening.
Yeah.
Anyway,
might be. Man, I'm in the room.
He'll listen to this, absolutely.
So great people. And Dan convinced Phil to start doing bike tours. And so I think Phil did it for a few years before we went, or...
Yeah, he'd done it for a year, and then you and I got invited on kind of an industry trip to bring people out to, which totally makes sense, bring it out there, experience how phenomenally awesome it is, and have that knowledge to share with other people.
So what we did was basically we were like, hey, we should organize a trio trip and see who, if anybody, wants to come from the company. And somehow in the middle of summer, we got everyone to be able to go, you're in the Northwest. Like if you're in Oregon or Washington, to get 8 people who are active outdoorsy people to take a 3-day weekend and give it to you in July or August or whatever is pretty much impossible. So we felt pretty happy about that. And then Phil came and picked us all up in Portland and took us out and dropped us off in somewhere in the desert, 60 or so miles away from the spot.
This is in Eastern Oregon.
Yeah. And then we just had a fantastic ride that day. I mean, we had 3 days of fantastic riding, but we went through some desert. It was super hot, but it was fun. We stopped. Phil's great with food and everything else. And we finally got back to his place and we all dinner together and drank some beers. And it was a wonderful day. But what was really special about it for me was that was sort of the moment when I realized, like, hey, we're not nobody, we're not huge, but we're somebody. It was sort of the first time when I looked around the room or looked back on the road and I was like, okay, we're a company, Prior to that, I'd never really thought of us as a real company. It's like I quit my job to pursue a hobby, and the hobby slowly, piece by piece, evolved into a business, and I never stopped to really take stock of that until that day.
Yeah, you guys are doing something very meaningful other than just writing software for bikes. I mean, you're enabling people to find great places to ride, and then when they find those great places to ride, they have these experiences where their life is better because of it.
Yeah.
Well put, Wes.
We're nodding our heads.
Trademark.
Well, thanks so much for being on the show, guys. If people want to find what you do, if they don't already know what you do, they can find you at ridewithgps.com. You guys are also on Twitter and Instagram, I'm assuming with the same handle, ridewithgps. And they can come and use parts of your site for free. They can get a membership to do a whole bunch of really cool routing and a whole bunch of other access to features that are really awesome. That's going to enable them to find great places to ride. Is there anything else you want to tell people that they can try out?
We just suggest come and sign up for free and, see what you like, see if you want more, get in touch with us. We respond to every single person, no matter what. We love hearing from our members, whether it's feedback or questions, whatever it is, it always makes us better. So,
Yeah, we have people who have been using our site for a very long time. And every day we see people who have been a free user we have a little running subscription page, and on there it shows how long the account has existed. And every day we get people who decide to pay us, and they have in excess of 2,000 day accounts. So we're playing a long game, and I view it as just come hang out, and if you can deal with some of our quirks, you hopefully will find that we do have a great piece of software. We do love cycling. We actually care about it. There's a room full of people somewhere in Portland that really, really care about taking care of all of the logistics and the boring part of cycling, making it so you have more fun while you're on the bike, and making it so more of your rides are unique, cool, interesting rides.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, guys, for being on the show. It's been fun.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This week, we wrapped up our iBike PNW giveaway, and we have one final winner to announce. The final 2 passes to the Gigantic Bicycle Festival go to THEJESSHALL from Instagram. Congratulations, THEJESSHALL. I'll be in touch to get your weekend passes sent out to you soon. Thanks to everyone who participated in the giveaway. Your pictures were awesome. Keep tagging your photos with the iBike PNW hashtag while I work on the details of our next big giveaway. Next up, I sit with the Cystic Fibrosis Cycle for Life organizers to talk about their ride and their goals. I am here at the Roanoke Tavern on Mercer Island in Seattle, Washington, with 3 folks from the Cystic Fibrosis Cycle for Life ride. So go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners, starting on my right.
Hello, I'm Scott Lincoln, and I am co-chair of the Cystic Fibrosis Cycle for Life. I work for Alaska National Insurance Company, who is this year's presenting sponsor.
And I'm Allie DeLong. I've been with the Foundation of Cystic Fibrosis for about 6 years now, and I am the manager of our Cycle for Life event.
I'm John Duggan. I'm also a co-chair of the this year's Cycle for Life ride. I'm an attorney in Seattle whose practice represents cyclists and cycling advocacy.
The Cystic Fibrosis Cycle for Life ride spans almost 40 rides across the country this year, where they have a fundraising goal to find a cure or help find a cure for cystic fibrosis of around $3.6 million. The Woodinville ride is July 29th, and you guys are targeting around $125,000 as your fundraising goal. So first, let's talk about the ride itself. You guys have 3 different routes in Woodinville. Tell me about those routes.
Yeah, so we have 3 different routes in Woodinville. It starts and stops at Red Hook Brewery, which is really great because, clearly there's beer at the end. But our route options are 15, 25, and 65 miles. And basically, there's a ride and a route for everyone. So our 15 and our 25 is right on the trail. And then our 65-mile route goes out a little bit further, as you can tell, and also on roads. So it's a little bit more challenging for our riders, but it's really fun as well.
Yeah, and there's 4 good climbs in that 65-mile route, so the experienced rider will not only have a great time out there, but there'll be a little bit of challenge in it as well.
And you guys have ridden this route before, so tell me a little bit about what is your favorite part of this route, John?
Favorite part?
Yeah.
I think I've done this ride 5 years in a row, and it's been roughly the same course each time. And actually, the favorite part about the ride is there's great rest stops that are manned by families of children with cystic fibrosis, and they just do a great job. They're manning the rest stop stations, and it's just good to interact with people that are really involved and affected, with this disease. The whole course is great.
Yeah, we have rest stops about every 10 miles, and they are mainly the volunteers that are, running those rest stops are those that are affected by cystic fibrosis and their families.
And how long have you guys been doing this ride?
This is our 7th annual cystic fibrosis ride, Cycle for Life.
And for the first one versus the current one, how much has it grown?
Phenomenally. Our first ride, was very grassroots effort, and we really worked hard over the last few years to grow our ridership, and we have a very aggressive goal this year of getting, about 500 riders. So we've been working really hard with that. But yeah, it's very different.
Yeah, we started with I think the first year was 50 riders.
Yes.
And last year we had about 225 who actually rode in the race, and we do have aggressive goals this year to increase the ridership to at least 500, because I'll tell you, the ride is great. we all have a good time, but the post-pedal party is the best party in biking.
Oh, really? That's a strong statement. We have a lot of great post parties in the Pacific Northwest.
I hear that, but are they all at the Red Hook Brewery?
I don't think so.
Do they all have a dozen different kinds of beer, wine if you prefer, gourmet food? I'm not talking about energy bars after the ride. We have gourmet food catered every year, 2 live bands. This really is a great party.
And I'll second what Scott's saying there. The best post party for a one-day ride. There are great 2-day rides and weekend rides with great parties, but for a one-day ride, this party blows them away.
You guys are selling it really well, so let's give the listeners something to chew on here. If a new rider is super excited about raising funds to help fight cystic fibrosis with your ride, what are the steps they should take to get involved? What should they do? Where should they start?
Yeah, I would recommend that they first go online to fightcf.cff.org/Seattle Cycle. They can go on there and they can create their own team, or they can join another team and participate, with them as well. We have our goal is about 45 teams, so they can join one of those or start their own. Either way is really great for us. But yeah, I would recommend going online first. It also gives detailed, route maps and all those kinds of things online. So.
And as far as fundraising goes, if they're new to this whole fundraising ride adventure, what tips do you have for starting the fundraising ball rolling? Because it's a snowball effect, and once you start getting that momentum, it really starts to add up.
I'll tell you, I've been fundraising for Cycle for Life for 6 years now, and it was the first time I've ever fundraised in my life. So it's like, well, this is going to be hard, and I don't want to ask people for money. But, A, you get used to it. B, there's a lot of really simple tools. Most people have accounts on Facebook or other social media. Once you get registered, you'll have access through your account on the Cystic Fibrosis website. You'll be able to post directly to your social media accounts with icons that show the CF logo, or give information about the ride. That you can connect directly to social media with a blurb about that you're riding in this ride to raise funds. And it's really easy from there to raise the minimum. And this year, the minimum fundraise has been lowered. It's $125. So I find that first $125 is easy. And once you get excited about that, and you see how easy it is, you tend to go from there and gain more confidence in asking people for more funds.
Is there a way for people that aren't going to ride the ride but want to support other riders to go and pick riders out of a list maybe on your site, or find other ways to contribute without actually riding the ride?
Of course, yeah. If they go to our website, they can actually search by a participant name, so John Duggan or Scott Lincoln, if promo for them to get more. But if they do go online, you can search by participant and make donations towards them. We also have a really great system of a virtual rider. So if you are not able to participate on July 29th, you can sign up as a virtual rider and also raise funds for cystic fibrosis.
And Wes, you can join Cycle for Life without riding if you're not able to ride. We're always looking for volunteers to help with the event as well, and then you do get to participate in the after ride festivities.
Very cool. So again, speaking of the after ride festivities, you mentioned gourmet food, 2 bands, lots of beer. How long does the after party last?
Generally, people are getting back from the ride. The rides are staggered, so they come back at roughly the same time. The first ride goes out at 8 a.m., and that's a 65-mile. And then we stagger the next two legs of the ride, and everyone gets back between 11 and 12 o'clock. And then from then on, we start, we eat and we drink a little bit, and then the music starts about 1 and goes until 5 p.m.
Very cool. Well, that sounds great. People can find you online. You mentioned your website earlier. Go ahead and tell us again one more time.
Yep, it's fightcf.cff.org/Seattle Cycle.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for sitting down with me and talking to me about this. This is cool.
Thanks for having us, Wes.
Thank you, Wes.
Thanks for listening to episode 18 of the Group Ride Podcast. To send me feedback about the show, or ask a question, or request that I cover a specific topic, contact me on Twitter and Instagram at The Group Ride Pod, or on Facebook at The Group Ride Podcast. If you'd like to call the show with a question or a suggestion, The phone number is 206-651-4161. And make sure you join the Group Ride Club to get some Group Ride podcast gear and get us one member closer to unlocking the custom Group Ride podcast jersey. You can sign up at thegroupride.com/club. I'm your host, Wes Salmon. See you on the next Group Ride.